Hello, we're getting ready to look at one of the funnest activities that you do in this class. You are going to become a historic Oklahoman and talk to students as the person you're representing. So consider that third grade OAS standards reference many of the people that you have options of representing in here. So first of all, I hope you have already read through this information and that you're a little bit familiar with it. So looking at the information about it, first of all, I guess we should back up a little bit. Most of you have selected your person whom you're going to represent. If you haven't selected yet, that's okay, but you do need to be working on that. So be sure that you don't select one of these who's already been selected. All righty, so what you are going to do is begin doing some research on this person. As you're researching, you're going to develop a timeline. The timeline is a very important piece of this project because you are situating this person in the context of what was taking place historically during this person's life. That includes looking at what was going on in Oklahoma, as well as what was going on in the country and what was going on even internationally. So we'll come back to the timeline part, but for now, let's look at how you're going to present your person. Since we're meeting via Zoom, I will record each of you individually during class, giving your presentation. I suggest that you have some kind of an article or item to show that's representative of the person. That could be something as simple as a scarf or a baseball bat or a hat or a wig and an old-fashioned looking blouse for a woman who lived a long time ago, whatever you choose. But you do need to do something to be a little bit representative visually for that person. You're going to have 4 to 5 minutes to give your presentation. Your timeline is going to be a great guide for that. So you should have your presentation somewhat memorized, but you're going to have some important dates and events there in front of you that you can refer to. It is very important that when you begin, you don't just jump in and start telling about when the person was born and where they were born and who they married and how many kids they have. If students don't know really who you are, what your impact is, they're not going to be really interested. So it's important that, say, if you're representing Belle Starr, that you let them know who Belle Starr was. You tell them that I was one of the first, or I was one of the only women who did blah, blah, blah. Then you start explaining things about your life, but you've got to catch their attention first. That also works with a conclusion. Don't just end with, and then I died in 1932, or I'm still alive today. You need to let students know how you were relevant. Why are you being studied in third grade social studies standards? What was your big impact? So that needs to be a big, broad statement or a few sentences that really encapsulate that person's impacts on Oklahoma and on history. On your timeline, I don't know how to stress this enough because students tend to not listen to me with this, even though I put things in bold and I stress them. So we need to think about situating this person historically. What was going on in this person's life historically, because that can be critically important to what the person accomplished. When you make your timeline, an easy way to do it is to take a poster board, just a typical poster board. If you've used one for another class and the back of it is blank, then use the back of a poster board or something. You're not going to be physically bringing it to class since we're a Zoom class, but you are going to be posting some pictures of it, like one overall picture and then maybe some closer up ones that focus on some of the events. So something that I recommend with this is color coding. That's an easy way to differentiate between the person's life events, Oklahoma events, and then national or international events. But how you differentiate from that is up to you. When students lose points on this assignment, it is almost always due to this, because they do not provide the historical context for the person's life. And remember, on your board, don't use sentences on your board. You're going to use words and phrases, possibly brief descriptions on the board, but don't write out. There should not be a lot of lengthy text. You can do your timeline by hand. You can do it digitally. You can do it however way is effective for you. So if you do it digitally, then you would be sharing your screen during your presentation. But again, it's very important that you provide the context and that you're not writing out your speech. You're not just reading word for word from your timeline. You are the person, and you're telling us about your life with a focus on what your accomplishments were. What did you do? Why are we learning about you today? So here's the list of historic Oklahomans from whom you can choose. And then here is the score sheet for how you will be assessed. The presentation, 4 to 5 minutes again. And it's very important to have that introduction, have something with your appearance that indicates the historic person, and some kind of a conclusion, very important. And then the timeline, and you can see how this is broken down with entries from the person's life, particularly related to their accomplishments. And then connection to local and state, national and international events. I really want you to have a good time with this, because it can be so much fun. And if the recording, if it's all right with you, I will share with some teachers at some local schools so that they can share these with their students. In non-pandemic times, we would actually go to the classes and you would get to present, usually to 2 different classes during that time, but we do what we can. So enjoy, and I hope you really have a good time as you delve into this person's life.